rankings than you know about anything. And Paul Finebaum, and I'm going to take the unusual step, Paul, of starting with you. Who has the biggest right to be mad today? Who has the biggest gripe on this morning?
It's the Georgia Bulldogs, because when you showed that graphic, Greeny, you saw Georgia's opponents all over the place, including Texas, the number 3 team in the country. They only beat Texas in Texas, and you look at they played Alabama. At Alabama, they lost at Ole Miss, and they beat Tennessee. When you look at everyone else, Indiana doesn't have a ranked team. They'll get one this weekend. Penn State has lost to one. Every time I get on here every Wednesday morning, Greeny, I say to myself, calm down, don't be an angry guy, get off your lawn. But this committee is not serious. There are football coaches on this committee, and there's no way those football coaches can tell me or anyone else with a straight face that they really think Indiana, Penn State, Miami, schools like that are better than Georgia. It's not possible.
And there are actually numbers to back that up. Heather, there is a metric called strength of record, okay? How strong your record is, what your record is relative to the opponents that you have played. Number 1 in strength of record in the country right now is Oregon, and they're the number 1 team in the country. Number 2 in strength of record is Georgia, and the committee has them at number 10. Heather, how do we explain it?
Well, I want to explain strength of record further. That means that the average CFP contender would have just an 11% chance to achieve the same record as Georgia. And we explain it by the fact that there are 6 new committee members in that room. Ward Manuel, the committee chair, Michigan athletic director, returns. They have a new executive director in Rich Clark, who is sitting at the head of the table. But when you have 6 new people on a committee of 13, the perspective can absolutely change. And we are not seeing from this group as much of an emphasis on strength of record and resume as we have in years past, because I'm telling you, that strength of record has been a direct correlation with the top 4 teams historically. So we're seeing more of an emphasis on who did you lose to, a la Oregon and Ohio State and Penn State losing to Ohio State, and also the eye test, because there's no other explanation for Indiana being as high as it is other than they have just been beating the daylights out of people except Michigan.
Do we accept this, Paul?
Well, we shouldn't. And listen, just because there are new members of the committee doesn't mean they have to do a lousy job. And so far, they have done a lousy job, Greeny. And what they've really done is they put Georgia in a box, because Georgia doesn't have another quality opponent, although they're playing a team in 2 weeks that beat Miami. They don't have a route to get higher. Why is that important? Yeah, they're in the playoffs, but they'll start the playoffs on the road at Penn State, at Indiana, at one of these schools that, in my opinion, really haven't done anything. If Indiana has a great game Saturday, good for them, but I don't think they will, and they should not be where they are based on their schedule so far, because they have beaten no one so far.
That's the big game this weekend, Heather. Ohio State, Indiana. What are the implications that everybody needs to know?
Well, the committee will be looking if this is a close game. I can't stress that enough, because, look, if this is lopsided one way or another, the answer is very clear. But again, I go back to who you lost to and how you lost as being so important in that room. And they are set up as whoever loses, it's a loss to a top 5 team. That is a good loss. So if it's by a field goal, if it's close, I could certainly see the loser staying in that game. But Ohio State is different, because that's a 2-loss team. And it's much harder to answer the question of where they are with those 2-loss SEC teams without knowing, Greeny, how the rest of that Saturday plays out.
It's worth pointing out that going into this game, Indiana's strength of schedule is 106th in the country. Now, it's going to rise substantially as a result of this. But this committee is supposed to be doing this week by week. Candidly, what they're doing so far makes no sense. Heather and Paul, outstanding. Thank you. Saturday, we got SEC action on ABC. It will begin with Ole Miss taking on Florida at noon. Then we'll have Texas and Kentucky, and it's followed by Alabama and Oklahoma. All that and more.